Hello, everyone. Happy to have you here. This is a Q&A session. Do tell me if you can hear me and if you can see me. And for that, drop me either a plus or hello into the chat. For those who will be watching us on YouTube as a replay, right now we have a live session with our community of English for IT, with students and teachers. Super. I see the comments in the section that we are live. And I want to say, first of all, hello. This is a community Q&A about work and life in Canada. My name is Mary. I'm an English soft skills and English skills instructor in our company. And this November, I took my mom on her dream trip to Canada. And of course, I came back with a lot of insights and new information to share with you. I did get some questions beforehand, so those will be a priority to answer. And then once we get to answer those questions, stories, how to survive and thrive in Canada, we'll have some time to answer questions that you might have live. So don't be shy to drop them into the chat. You can mark them with the word question, and I'll be sure to address them at the end of it. I'm super thrilled to see you all here, because typically during our lessons we don't talk to students that much. I mean, we typically listen to our students and help them enhance their English skills. But this is my time to shine and tell you everything that I have learned and give you some cool tips and tricks and everything. Okay, let's start with the question that I received, and that was if Canadians could tell that I was not a local by my accent. And they could say that I'm not a local, but not by my accent, by my Ukrainian flag. Maybe accent as well. I never got to ask them about that, since I have been to a couple of other countries, and I typically got a response that they hear that my accent, that I have some sort of accent that is not local accent, but they couldn't pinpoint which one it is. My opinion on this one is that if we talk about Canada, there's important things to know. First one is that Canada, being colonized by Europeans, does have two official languages, and that is English and French. And there live indigenous people, natives, who have their own languages as well. So you might come across them. I haven't met any of them, but they definitely exist. And more than that, the cities in Canada, they are quite diverse and multicultural. So you get to meet people from all around the world with all the different accents. So if you are worried about your accent, don't be shy. You're gonna come into a community of various accents. And my general take on accents is that it only matters if people understand what we are talking about and if we are being polite. And I have something to say on this matter. So first things first, there was a question related to what we're going to talk about, and that was the question, if I'm planning to meet two colleagues, three colleagues, all the colleagues from Canada, what are three top communication tips for what I should be aware of? And I actually got in contact with my friends who live abroad, and one of them recorded me message was quite an insight, because he's working in aviation and he got to communicate with lots of different people. And top three tips are: number one, that we should remember that we represent our country, no matter what country it is. And I think it's a generally good tip for any travels that you're gonna have, that people do remember. If you say which country you're from, people are gonna associate you as that country next time, if there's gonna be any talk about this country in their community or in their group of friends. The next one is that during meetings with head of the office or managers, or even just plain simple writing emails, they don't use official language like dear Mr. somebody. Instead, they write emails like, hi, how are you? I would say that we had a lot of students. In my practice, I had students who were at that time working in Canada, and they did mention that it depends on the company and it depends on the culture. So if you're gonna get into the environment, you will probably figure out pretty quickly if they use formal or informal. But from what my friends told me, that are staying in Canada right now and working, some of them Ukrainian, some of them are not. Typically, it is informal communication. And the third one, you probably have read it by now, but I will read it out loud if you're listening to me on the background and doing your stuff. It's cool if you do comment, what are you doing exactly? I'm always watching those kind of streams or podcasts when I'm like doing dishes and stuff. So the third one, and super important, it's about overstepping boundaries. And this overstepping even includes especially such important topics as racism, sexism, misogyny, homophobia, passive aggression, rudeness, and toxic behavior. It's a good rule of thumb to leave them at home, leave them in the therapy sessions, but not to bring them to other people. So Canada is one of those countries that does not tolerate such behavior, and you are either going to be called out for it, or people will it might influence, especially if it's work relationship, it might influence you having work, or your or how other people interact with you. So even if they will not tell you about this, you're gonna notice shift in behavior towards you. So be aware of that, and pass it to other, of course. But I think it's better to like do this in all the countries, not just Canada. Tell me if you agree. Send me a plus into the chat if you agree, or maybe have noticed any of such situations that happened to you or other people on your travels. Super curious. Okay, one thing that I didn't write text for it, but on the screen you right now see two pictures of typical landscape of the outskirts of Canada. And what you might notice is that they have lots of parking spaces and huge roads and vast, which means big spaces for everything. We will gonna go back to it. We're gonna get back to it in a few moments. Next question, also related to language, was if it would be easy for somebody with intermediate or B level English to speak with Canadians. And as we talked about it before, it is a quite multicultural country. Maybe not country, but the cities do have lots of people from different backgrounds, so you should be good. But there are also a couple of things that we should keep in mind. And it's not about English skills, but it's more about people skill or personality skill. Read and ask. What I've noticed that most of the things in Canada that can be ambiguous, so like you're not sure about what you should do, they have it somewhere written. So if you're shy to talk to other people, be sure to look around, take notice of your surroundings, and it is likely that you will see the information you're looking for somewhere written. So they are quite friendly towards shy people. And at the same time, if you're not a shy person, or if you came to Canada to practice your English or perfect your English, or just to communicate with people, do ask. I found the experience of talking to Canadians or to people who live in Canada very gratifying. They are super polite. I would say that the word sorry that you might hear as like a signature word for British people, that they say sorry a lot. There are even memes and jokes around the internet that Canadians do more of that. So even in the situations that are a little bit awkward, when you're not sure if you're doing right or not, most likely people will say sorry to you, and you should say sorry in reply. For example, if in the store you need to go around a person or like pass through some people, they will say sorry, sorry, and like move back. Not everybody, of course. I wouldn't say that Canada is free of rude people. That happened, but in majority of cases, very nice and polite. And same goes for the bus drivers, who are always like generally smiley and quite nice to talk to. So I had few cases where I was not sure if I took the right bus or if I need to take a stop and get out of the bus, get off the bus. So I just ran to the bus driver and asked them, sorry, can you tell me, and show them my Google Maps and everything, if that's the right stop, or do I need to take off here? And they were always happy to reply and had only pleasant experience. So I would say I'm a pro in talking to bus drivers right now, but you know, buses are super important on that one. Oh, and also some of the things that I was surprised. So what you might see on the screen, I'm not sure if if it's readable, but what it says is that you should pull the cord to request a stop. And I have never seen such a system anywhere else in the world. But yeah, I found it super weirdly satisfying that when you need to stop, you don't need to shout, as you typically might need to do in Ukraine to request a bus stop, but you just pull a cord. So that's the case. I mean, I think in most of the buses right now, we have a button to press to request a stop. But it didn't used to be like that. Just a few years ago, we needed to shout. I remember those times in Ukraine that we needed to shout to request a bus stop. Well, it's not the case in Canada though. Okay, once again, just a reminder, if you do have any questions or comments, do drop them in the section. I'll be happy to address them later on. Okay, next one is once again, ask and repeat. I have a situation to tell you here, a story to tell. But first, what I mean by ask and repeat. If you if you haven't had this topic in your English class, please request it from your teachers, because clarification is like a whole section in English, how you can clarify, and not just for us to learn it and understand, but like not to learn it and use, but to hear it and understand when somebody else clarifies. And by that, I mean phrases like, somebody tells us, yeah, you should do that, and we would ask them back, so do you mean that I do this and that and that? And they say, yeah, that's what I mean, or not exactly, you should do something different. So if you're not sure that you heard a person correctly, or if you're not sure that you understood them, because sometimes I don't like, even with teacher's level of English, sometimes I am too distracted, or I hear the names of the streets that are not familiar to me. I just ask again and say, could you, I'm not sure I caught it. Could you come again? Could you, is that the one that you're talking about? So yeah, that's one that is super important. And a story to tell. So what you see right now on the screen is three pictures. One of them shows the screen with the schedule for trains. And if you look closer, you'll see this kind of a standalone device. So the way how public transport works in Canada, you can pay by your, like, with your phone. I think it's NFC. I'm sorry if I misremember the name for this technology. Yeah, I think it's NFC. Or you can pay by NFC, but with card that you, like a city card. So I had both. Obviously, with when you pay with your card, bank card, it's gonna be more expensive. And if you have a city card and if you have your phone, there are a couple of steps to do. It's not always obvious, but if you go back to read and ask, you should be good. But the way public transport system works in Canada is that you have these standalone devices, and you have your city card, and you, before boarding a train or a bus, you need to tap it to that device. Typically on buses, they have them inside the bus, so you don't need to like search for it anywhere on the bus stop. But when you need to take the train, they are located on the train, in the train station, not inside the train. Inside the train, there's no way you can pay, or so we thought. So we have took a train. We figured out that we couldn't pay with our city card because all of the devices are left on the platform and inside the station. And like, riding free and illegally in Canada can cost you some. And to be honest, I don't feel as a person who is okay with not paying for, like, the ride. So I asked around, and there were a couple of people sitting nearby. Like, what should we do? Because we don't want to like do this in illegal way. And so figured out that you can buy tickets online, and possibly in that is the case where you might need to know English. But even if your English is lower, don't be shy to ask them, like give them your phone and ask them to type or to choose the correct options. The difficulty was that the tickets were only working after some time. So I was anxiously looking at my phone and waiting for 5 minutes to pass before the tickets become valid. So I guess hopefully you will not run into that situation. And fortunately, there were people around, nice to help me out in that. But once again, people skills. Don't be shy to ask. If you're super shy to ask your partners or your family or your friends to ask for you. People around are willing to help. Okay, next one. Listen and ask for clarification. Once again, English skills are not as important as checking and clarifying with other people's skills. So we were on the same train. It was an eventful evening. And I was without my headphones. That is a good practice once you're abroad. I was without my headphones, listening to, like, talking to my friend, but just paying attention to what was happening on the background. So we heard the driver of the train talking. I don't remember his exact words, but I will tell you, he was as informal as he possibly could. There was even some phrase like "good luck." So you can imagine if a driver, like if somebody who rides a train says something, jokes, laughs, and says "good luck," it either means we're up for a good laugh or for a good cry. So just to be sure, I checked with people around, like, sorry, I'm not sure I got it correctly. Could you say, do they mean that, or what was that? And they told me that we couldn't take off the train in the cart that we were riding, right? So train has different carts, different sections, and we needed to run through like 6 or 5 carts to the front of the train to be able to take off the train. So once again, public transport is fun, but if you are quite attentive, if you have B1 plus level of English, you should be good. Everything should be fine. If you had any of such situations, do share in the comments. Like, I'm curious to read if I am the only one that has multiple travel stories related to public transport. And I think I'm a pro. I think I should like start my own I don't know, course on how to survive public transport in foreign countries. And airports, don't get me started on that one. Okay, so moving on, the question, one more question that I really liked, but I unfortunately couldn't answer in full. So I did use the help of my friend Danilo Ostrovdat, who is currently living and working in Canada. And that question is, how do Canadians balance work and free time? We did meet with, so I did meet part of my part of my family, my relatives in Canada, and we did, but they are already in their retirements, so they most of their life is retirement is when you stop like working and you finally have time for yourself. During you typically it's after like 65, 70 plus years. And so they have most of the time for themselves. And we also met with a couple of friends who toured us around the city. And they also proved this information that most of the cases, Canadians work more than they have free time. So speaking about work, I would say that choosing your profession and choosing the proper workspace, having to work with people you like, and having non-toxic relationship with your company is super important. So be sure to look into that one, and no matter if you're looking forward to move to Canada, or if you're working in Ukraine or any other country, because I feel like for a lot of adults, work is a major part of our life. So you deserve to have a place where you feel happy. And for as talking about Canadians, in general, they have 10-ish holiday-related days off, because if you are from country like Ukraine, we have many more days where we can have holiday, national holiday, and not go to work. In other countries, it is a bit different. Okay, and most like favorite destinations to travel to and have a good rest. It's Cuba, Mexico, Dominican Republic, and US. That was mentioned by my friend, though I do remember we had a talk about on the prices of vacation, and there was information of something like So a travel to Cuba was very cheap, even for uh, even for foreigners or even for Ukrainian market range prices. It was like you could go there for I don't remember, 300 Canadian dollars or 150 Canadian dollars. I would say though that you should not be we should not fall for cheap prices, but look into the background of some countries because, for example, with Cuba, there is a reason why flights there and life there is fairly cheap. And we now know better that we need to look into history and background of countries and their relationship with other countries to understand if we want to go there or if we don't want to go there. So just putting this as an information for you. But it is a popular destination among Canadians. Okay, one more question from you that was sent to me beforehand was, are there specific cities or areas in Canada that are must visits for tech enthusiasts? And I am a tech enthusiast, but I don't know. I would say that all the places that I go to and I choose to be on my itinerary uh, are places that are interesting for me personally, not because I'm interested in tech, but because I'm interested in science. So museum are must visit for me. Just typical sightseeing touristy places. So I decided to redirect this question and ask you, dear crowd, tell me, write me in the comments, what do you know? Or what do you like? We have here a lot of tech people, I'm sure. Um, what are the places that are most interesting for you? And while you'll be writing that, I will take a sip of my water and also ask for everybody who's watching in the recording to do the same in our comment section on YouTube. Do leave us comments, tell us if you're a tech enthusiast or not. If you are, what kind of places you go to when you're traveling abroad? Is it also a museum? Is it, or are you staying away from all the touristy places or all the tech related places? Or maybe you don't want to do anything with tech when you're traveling. Do tell, do tell. Oh, I see the comment that virtual event is go-to solution. I would say touche. So it's totally true. Like virtual events, uh, for especially for the people who survived COVID times and still are not super fast to go back to offices. Uh, Virtual tours, go for them. If you cannot travel, you should definitely try. Just in case, my cat made an appearance, so that's why you might hear some strange noises. Okay, I'll be looking into your comments, so you can skip a little bit further on if you're watching it in recording. I see a comment from Yelena. For example, communities that want to build startups. Oh, that is a good one. If I understood correctly, so just a second. No, it is a different comment. I see a comment from Silvina. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Hopefully I'm not mispronouncing it. So They say maybe visiting a tech company established in the country you are visiting. That is an option, of course. I'm not sure if I understood you correctly. Do you mean that if you're working in the company that you have in your country, for example, some of the companies that have multiple offices around the world, so you surely can go to the office in Canada if it exists there. That is, if that is what you meant, 100%. I would never miss it because cool to meet your foreign colleagues finally in real life. Um, though also there might be the case that if you are working in company that is tech related, that you would want to either online meet people from your sphere of interest and ask them for a tour, or attend any events that are interesting for people in tech. I would say pub quizzes. Pub quizzes is a must. If you're into pub and quizzing, you're for sure gonna be in a good company. Um, though we will get back to the places for leisure time in a couple of minutes. I do unfortunately have some bad news on that one. Okay, so if you're still writing a comment, please do. I'll read them later on. And just a reminder that you can ask any questions in the chat. We'll have time for that at the end of the live stream. Okay, moving on. My favorite places, sightseeing places. We traveled to Ontario. So Ontario is like a region of Canada. Basically, it's similar to states in US or to oblast in Ukraine. Canada, as a huge, massive, vast country, has different regions, different states. And we've been to Ontario, and since we didn't have much of an opportunity, I didn't want to have much opportunity to travel very far away. The city we stuck to was Toronto. And by the way, notice the pronunciation. So locals don't say Toronto, they say Toronto, Toronto. Walking around the city is amazing. If you have never been to like megapolis, so like city with high, tall buildings, lots of skyscrapers, you'd probably enjoy this experience. Going to CN Tower or like the most popular touristy places in such cities, it's definitely worth it. If you don't try to avoid crowds, then for sure go for it. Why not? I think like if you are in the city, why not do that? And I personally, my favorite one, shout out to my mom on the picture. One of my dreams that I didn't realize was my dream, but I did realize it in a moment I was living it, is to see um, a skyline of the city. So skyline is the beautiful view of the city across the body of water, like in front of on the picture in the dark where you see it like a shadow or figure. That is my mom standing on the island of Toronto. I'm not sure if I remember the name of the island correctly. And she is looking over the Toronto cityscape, night cityscape. That's amazing. The lights were indescribable. So no, not a lot of pictures over here because you need to go and see for yourself. And just simple, even if you're not sure if you're gonna remember it or not, simple Googling places or creating your itinerary with ChatGPT or AI, any other app of your choice, or Google, should have this spot in there. So don't worry, you're not going to miss it. And ride by ferry to those islands was also an enjoyable ride. And the lake, Ontario. Yeah, the Ontario Lake is no worse. So even if you didn't get to the nature places, which Canada is famous for, like the Calgary or amazing national parks, even in Toronto, there are a lot of places to surprise. And if you are like me, interested not only in walking around, do go into the museum. And here's one more story that all the English speakers will enjoy, because in the museums there are free English and French tours around the museum. I don't like going to the museum where I need to like choose which part of the museum to go to and like read tiny little plates with information. Um, Maybe if I knew more of history, I wouldn't say that I don't know history, but if you are a history enthusiast, it's easier for you. Though I would love to get a background information from somebody who knows it best. So the story goes, me and my mom walked into this museum. We got to decide where to go first because it's a history and natural science museum. So it combines two of my passions. There are dinosaurs, there are animals species that are endangered. There are fossils, there are rocks, and there is also like Roman Empire, Egyptian mummies, and Canada history. So where to go, what to do, not sure. What I do in such cases, I typically go to the front desk, that is where the information can be given to, and ask them, do you have any leaflets with main information or like main points that are must visit? But we didn't get to do that because I have noticed you can see him on the picture on the right. I did spot this tour guide, like a person with a badge, and I just straightforward went to him and asked him, sorry, can I ask you, are you a tour guide? Can we join your tour? Is it free or do we need to pay for it? And he just said that there is a free 1 hour walking tour and we are free to join. We are welcome to join. And that was a huge success. So if you are in such places, I guess main takeaway, don't rush into things. It takes practice, but first things, if you're feeling lost, that's great. Seek for help, and maybe some amazing opportunities will come along. I would say though that in comparison to other countries and museums that I've been to, the museum in Canada is not a cheap one. It costs around 30 Canadian dollars per person. So the free walking tour is actually included in your ticket, if to be exact. And the museums are costly. But if you like history, if you like science, if you like to learn things about the places you've been to, Royal Museum Ontario is must visit. There was one thing that I wanted to mention on that one. Right. And you also see on the picture on the right, little birch boats. I noticed, that is like off-topic information, not on the trip, but I have noticed that there is very little quality information on YouTube at least, because I like to watch streams, listen to podcasts, and so on history of Canada. So if you're gonna be in Canada, do get to some museum or do ask around about the history from different perspectives, because you might hear the French perspective, you might hear the English or like the British perspective of the history, and you might hear the indigenous or natives people perspective on the history. Super interesting, especially since I found out that first first trips to Canada were done by Vikings. And Vikings are one of the ancestors of my country. So Vikings also made trips to Ukraine. And the later on ventures to Canada, the first colonies, were established when most of the major cities in my country existed. So I guess the takeaway is it's interesting to when you travel to understand the timelines and what was happening in your country where you come from when the major events were happening in the country that you're traveling to. Definitely an unforgettable connection, unforgettable experience, something that helps us to really dive into the world and explore it. I don't know. I'm so into studying and learning. I guess if you're here, you're too. Okay, moving on. What you should keep in mind, a couple of little things, is that there is a tax for most of the things you're gonna buy, like physical objects, but there is no tax for food. We've been to a couple of cafes and restaurants, though they are quite pricey. So expect $20 minimum per person per serving, and prices only go up. And so if you have an opportunity to prep your own food, do go into supermarkets and stores. And one more thing, if you have been to United States, the shopping is quite similar in terms of everything is sold in large quantities. Like there's something about this culture of buying that is different to European countries and to my country as well, that people in the United States, from what I've known, I haven't been to yet, and in Canada, don't do shopping like Europeans do. So they don't go out for like one piece of bread or for one yogurt. If they go out for shopping, it is related to the time that you spend on traveling and where the stores are located. They buy in bulks, like a lot of stuff at once, and then by car carry it home. It's possibly connected to the fact as well that cities are not as livable. So basically, most of the people live on the outskirts or suburban areas. And if you are from Europe, you know of these like tiny little stores where you can buy everything you need. So they don't exist in Canada. I have never, through 2 weeks of staying there, have seen a tiny little store with food. If it's a food store, it has like a five sections at least. So gotta prepare for that mentally. To all my fellow Europeans. Okay, so touristy stuff I missed in Toronto and found like incredibly different from how I do things when I'm home and when I travel Europe. Tiny little stores with food that I can just reach by walk, by foot in 5 minutes. Also, tiny little cafes or coffee shops or coffee spots where can you go and read a book. I would say that the city is quite fast. Maybe in Toronto, like in a city itself, there would be spots where friends can meet, like cafes and restaurants. They exist, but I wouldn't say that it's like a common thing to come with your book, grab a coffee, and relax. Or maybe I haven't noticed. So take it with a grain of salt. Could be that I didn't get to all of the tiny, cozy spaces. I did spot some, I think, but I'm not sure if this culture of coffee drinking and book reading and enjoying your slow mornings exists there. Might be on private property porches, not in the city though. And also, related to that, like parks in general, green spaces, lots of trees, like roads for walking and having like walks. I haven't noticed them as well. So I would say that I feel like culture of hanging out in Canada versus Europe slash especially in Ukraine for now looks a lot different for me. If you have something to say on that, I will be curious to read it. That's my general impression. Okay, next one is we're approaching things you'll not regret spending time and money on. So you came to Canada, what you're gonna buy? Tell me in the comments if you come to Canada, what you're gonna buy. And if you will not say maple syrup, I won't believe you. So maple syrup is definitely a must. There are a couple of other things that I suggest spending money on once you are in Canada, and not all of them are souvenirs. But first, renting a car. Canada, same as US, is a car country. So probably from my public transport adventures, you could have spotted me being a bit stressed about the public transport. I would say that there were moments when we spent most of the day on getting from place to place. And if you missed a bus, you might wait for another 30, 40, 20, 30, 40 minutes for the next one. So it takes time to get to any place if you don't have a car. So if you have a chance, if you have a driver's license, and if you're not even sure even if you're comfortable or not comfortable with driving, because Canada is pretty chill country from what I saw from taxi and friends driving in terms of driving, so it's quite safe. Haven't noticed any weird behavior on the road. Though if you are using public transport, it will take majority of your day off. So you will probably see people eating on the bus, eating on the train, reading books, and doing lots of different things just because it's such time consuming idea. So, but cars, okay. Example: to get from I lived in the city Mississauga, I think Mississauga. I can't remember the name of the city I lived in. This city is like connected to Toronto, so I would say it's kind of like an outskirts. It's like if Toronto is the place where you work, Mississauga is a place where a lot of people live. And there are a couple of such spots around Toronto. Of course, some people live inside the city. So we lived in this city. To get to Toronto, we needed to spend 2.5 hours on the commute, like on getting to the center of Toronto. 2.5 hours. It's some time. But by car, if one on the days we took taxi, called an Uber, it was like 30 minutes maximum, 30-40 minutes. So it saves time. And if you're on a budget, it does save budget as well. It means no, it doesn't save budget. It does save time, and I guess you can do more things. What I meant to say, but unfortunately, I didn't have English moments. I haven't had my driver license until now. Now I do. I'm in process of it. You can congratulate me. But yeah, if you can definitely go for it. And the next one is having extra storage on your phone to take pictures. Because there are super cool phrases that I love that English allows to create because of ambiguity and because of being the language of pun intended jokes. Spell it S-P-U-N. One of the phrases that I liked and took a picture of was insurance with a heart so big it shows. Like you can literally see it, it shows. Such a nice advertisement. I mean, not sponsored, but I do like the phrasing. I do like the phrasing. Oh, and sorry for skipping backwards. One more phrase that I was so happy to read is that plant-based diet is growing on me, or like eating greens is growing on me. So the phrase "it's growing on me" means that we start liking something more and more. And so I got a lot of content for our students in English for AT. So if you feel like you don't get something, do definitely take a picture of it. Maybe you'll find out some new cool phrase, and we'll have connection to remember it by. Okay, and the last one, but not the least, souvenirs. As we mentioned, maple syrup, or basically maple everything, maple candies, chocolate maple candies, maple syrup, maple lollipops, you name it. It's quite good. Some of them you can buy in your own country, but I guess bringing it from Canada has a different vibe. And two things, or like more like three things that are not as obvious. One of them I always bring from trips is like my type of magnets from traveling. Those are books. And books like A History of Canada in 10 Maps, like you would honestly not think to search up such a book on Amazon. I mean, might be, but getting a book on history of the country you've been to, I feel like it's such an elevated gift for yourself or for somebody else. Do definitely go into bookstores and pick up a good book for yourself. I did pick 5. So my suitcase was full of books, and I don't regret a bit. One more that you can see here and probably interested is ice wine. So from the book that is on the table over here, A History of Canada in 10 Maps, I found out that Canada is well known for grape and for wineries. And one of the special type of wine for Canada is ice wine. If you can see it on the picture, you can read how ice wine is produced. But in short, it is basically a grape that is collected when the temperature outside is below freezing. So it's not a grape that is collected during harvesting seasons, but its harvest season is when the temperature has dropped. So it has a quite unique taste. Would definitely recommend to try it and take some with you if you are into tasting. I think that would be it over here. Something interesting, if you like jokes in languages, if you're a language enthusiast, greeting cards, um, definitely a must for me, because I picked up happy retirement cards for my friends, and I think something about um, like congratulate you with grandson. I guess it depends on your humor. So it doesn't mean like regular greeting cards, but you can pick up some cute ones or funny ones. I think that would be it from me. Uh, some pictures just of the taking off and landing, and that's it. Sorry, cats. Huh. And finally, it's time for your questions. So I'll be looking into the chat to see if there is anything I can answer. If you still have some, do drop them. We still have a couple of minutes. If not, if you don't have questions, then type me into the chat what was the most interesting and useful information for you today. If you do have questions, type questions. If not, give me some feedback. Okay, let me see. There is a well-known aquarium over there. Yeah, I've been to that one. Definitely recommend. I didn't include any spoilers. If you've never been to the aquarium places, like see, there have a different naming for it. If I'm cannot can't think off top of my head, cannot remember. Um, but it's a unique experience. You have like a tunnel and body, like all the water with all of the marine mammals and fish swimming um, over you, like sharks, and it's in one pool, right? Sharks, tortoise, and to like other turtles, because tortoise is like a huge turtle. Then what else were there? Like just amazing sea creatures. Like it's a unique experience, totally worth it. But once again, talking about the prices, everything is in a range of 30, my apologies, in the range of 20-30 dollars per visit to most of the touristy places. So keep that in mind if you're planning the budget. What about parties? That is a very good question. I'm not sure. As I said, I was taking my mom. Her dream was to see Niagara Falls. So I guess I'm not too much of a party person, but I would say that Toronto definitely looks like a city with amazing nightlife. Um, so you might need to make your own research on this one, to do your own research on this one. Okay. And the comment, thank you for the school casual chat. I love the mix of English and fun. Yeah, thank you as well for joining me today. I guess we'll be wrapping up. I'm not sure if I can see. I think the comment section takes some time to load, so I might getting them a little bit later than you do. Once again, thank you for joining me today. Do drop me some feedback in the comments. I'll be super happy to read all of it, both here live and on YouTube. And until next time, see you all, especially warm goodbye to all of our students. See you during the lessons. Take care. Bye-bye.